Okay, you can go ahead now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie, and today my colleague Lindsay and I will be discussing Chapter 7 Teams and Groups. In this chapter, we will be looking at the characteristics of groups and how groups develop, the dynamics among group members, the concepts of teamwork and collaboration, and the applications of the relational leadership model. Can anyone tell me what is a group? Well, what are we doing right now? Would you say this is a group?
Yeah, it's like a collection of people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yes. So a group is really a gathering of individuals, usually three or more, who interact and coordinate to achieve a specific goal. Now, there are several different types of groups. There are formal groups, which are systematically structured in hierarchical form. So these are like the governments, schools, churches, etc. And then there are the informal groups who come together for a common interest or other personal relationships. So these are people who have like lunch together, people who carpool or play casual sports, etc. Groups are formed based on three key dimensions, and these dimensions help us to understand the different types of groups. So they are purposes, structure, and time. So the first key dimension is the purpose of the group. Determining the intention of the group will lead to the structures and procedures necessary that will assist the individuals of the group to attain the goal. So, for example, the purpose of a group could be for friendship, where individuals share common interests and enjoy each other's company. On the other hand, in a formal setting, there will be a clear definition of purpose in order to attain the goal. The second key dimension is structure, which relates to the involvement of each member of the group and how they correlate with each other. Using the examples from before, a friendship group is a leaderless group where no one is the formal leader, and leadership is all around in the group. In a highly structured group, however, each individual of the group will assume a role to complete the task at hand, such as a chairperson, a vice chairperson, a secretary, etc. Now, the positional leader may be accountable, but may use diverse styles ranging from highly autocratic, which is basically making all the decisions, directing and controlling the followers, to engaging group members and empowering them through the relational leadership model. Even in structured organizations, there are also what you call informal leaders who can impact the group to contribute to the decision-making process based on their seniority, their personality, or even their past stature in the company. So I don't know if you all remember, but in chapter 3, Sue went into great detail about empowerment and the importance of letting power go and how it can be achieved. Finally, time is the third key dimension, which relates to the duration of the group. There are ongoing groups where there's no time limitations. These groups carry names such as committee, board, or council, and time-limited groups are called task force or ad hoc committee. Continuing with the previous examples, the friendship group will be an ongoing group. In the highly structured group, however, time can be either ongoing or limited. So staff members may have an ongoing time frame, while some members may have a specified term of appointment, such as a 2-year contract or even completing a task over a specific number of meetings. Whether ongoing or limited, this key dimension presents different challenges. Groups with short time frames must quickly create an understanding of a common purpose to engage members to be involved and actively focused on their role. More so, ongoing groups must continuously motivate their members over time and to establish ways to encourage new members to the group while keeping focus on the group's objectives. So based on these three key dimensions, maybe now you guys can take a look at yourselves and determine what type of groups you are currently involved with. So I will now pass you over to Lindsay, who will discuss group development.
Thank you, Jamie. And good evening to everyone. My name is Lancia Paul Musai, and I will continue with the presentation at this point. We will now look at group development. And I'm sure we've all heard the phrase teamwork makes the dream work, right? And although it might be slightly cliche, there's a lot of truth to it. When you're in a group full of high performance and performers and go-getters, even the most daunting of goals or end results become a lot easier to face head on and accomplish, not so? Don't you all think so?
Yes.
Okay, so of course, working in a cohesive team can sometimes be a struggle, right? As there are a lot of different personalities, sense of humor, and work preferences to consider, right? And to ensure that the teams run smoothly as possible and goals are met, it is in everyone's best interest to implement the 5 stages of group development. And these stages are referred to as what we would call the forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjoining stages, right? And if you are new to this concept, I can assure you that you are not alone. So let us look at these terms in a little more detail. So first of all, has everyone ever come across these terms before? No? Anyone? Okay, so let's look at where these terms come from. The term we use for the stages of group development, as stated before, were developed by a gentleman by the name of Bruce Tuckman, an educational psychologist who in 1965 published his findings in a paper titled Developmental Sequence in Small Groups. And his theory, which is referred to as the Tuckman stages, is centered around his research on the dynamics of teams and team building. His common belief of team development is that the stages are all necessary for a group to work together as effectively as possible in order to see success. While his work started with only the first 4 stages, that is the forming, storming, norming, and performing, in 1977, Tuckman and his doctoral student, Mary Ann Jensen, added the 5th stage, adjourning, to indicate when a team has completed a project. And each of these 5 stages clearly represent a step that groups go through from start to finish to work on a project as they complete all the necessary steps and tasks of the project for it to be a success. And we will now look at the 5 stages of group development in a little more detail. So let's break this down a little bit. The first stage is the forming stage, which is when members within the group first come together to meet. It can be considered a period of orientation, when everyone is getting to know each other and becoming acquainted. Think of this forming stage like the first day of school or the first day at a new job, right? Usually at this stage, group dynamics and roles are yet to be established. A team leader will typically emerge at this point in time to take charge and direct the individual members. The forming stage is also where members discuss things like team goals, individual roles, strategy, and of course, most important, establish ground rules. Stage 2 is called the storming stage and is considered the most critical but also most difficult to go through. It can be riddled with conflict as the individual personalities and work styles clash within the group. It is also common for team performance to dip a bit in the storming stage as members can sometimes disagree on goals, strategy, responsibilities, and even their assigned roles. Also, there may be instances where subgroups or what we would call cliques can begin to form during this stage. And we can think of this phase like when you move, maybe when you're moving with your spouse, right? Or a friend you never lived with before. And you slowly start to notice the little things about them that get on your nerves. The same is likely to happen with members of your group, right? Maybe you all may have experienced something like that. While some teams think they can skip this stage, it's important to dive into the project or task with the expectation that there may be some conflict and it should be resolved as soon as possible. All right. Once you have weathered that storm, pun intended, yeah, your team moves into the norming stage. And at this stage, the team members have figured out how to work together, and there's no more conflict or internal competitions lingering. And unity is upon everyone, and a consensus develops around who the leaders are, what is everyone's role, and what comes next. There's also a sense of bonding between team members, and everyone is more familiar with each other's personalities and sense of humor. At this stage, there's also a sense of comfort among group members when giving constructive feedback or even asking for help as everyone work through various tasks. All right. And after everyone becomes acquainted with each other, they will now move into the performing stage, right? And this stage tends to be where there's most cohesive work environment. People are happy and excited, and team performance it's at its all-time high. All right, there's clear and stable structure in place throughout the group, and everyone is fully committed to achieving the goals put in place. In the performing stage, there's a sense of focus, purpose, and alignment from everyone on the team, no matter what their role, right? And remember that no matter what, problems and conflict can still emerge, but they should be handled and dealt with in a constructive and honest manner. And because there's a bond and a relationship already built among the team members, it's easier and faster to get to a resolution if a conflict were to occur. All right. So the fifth stage, all right, which is the adjoining stage, sometimes also called the termination or the mourning or the ending stage, right? Most, if not all, of the goals of the team have been accomplished at this point. Okay, the project as a whole is being wrapped up and final tasks and documentations are completed. The team members also usually debrief and discuss what went well and what areas could be improved on for future projects, right? And depending on how long the project lasted and the bond that was formed, there's sometimes a ceremonial celebration of the work that was completed and the overall success of the project. Okay, so as we delve further into groups, we will now look at the dynamics of groups and roles associated with groups. All right, so in the early 1940s, Kurt Lewin, a social psychologist and change management expert, is credited with coining the term group dynamics. All right, he noted that people often take on distinct roles and behaviors when they work in a group. Right, so group dynamics describes the effects of these roles and behaviors on other group members and on the group as a whole. Okay, a group with a positive dynamic is easy to spot. Team members trust each other, they work towards a collective decision, and they hold one another accountable for making things happen. Right? And in a group with poor group dynamics, however, people's behavior disrupts the work, right? And as a result, the group they may not come to any decision, and they may make the wrong choices because group members cannot explore their options effectively. Okay, so we will now look at group roles in a little more detail. And individuals engage in communication patterns that may signal the roles they are adopting in a group. All right, so groups depend on two kinds of roles. That is the group building roles and the task roles. The group building roles are actions that focus on the group as people, right? Including the relationship among members. And the task roles focus on accomplishing the purpose of the group, including giving information and opinions and moving the group along it on tasks by summarizing and by using various decision-making techniques or strategies. All right. And having a diversity of skills and ideas within a group often enriches the group's process and can improve the final product. However, working with others who are different from ourselves can be a challenge, right? Many of us work in groups, and we do find that there can be some challenges with personalities, right? And one way to structure group functioning and benefit from one another's strength is to assign roles to each member of the group. And these roles can be assigned based on individual strength, or they can be rotated periodically among members to increase each member's understanding of the roles and of themselves as team members. Okay, and there are four fundamental roles to consider in groups or teams, and we will just go through them, namely the leader, the facilitator, the arbitrator or the monitor, the note taker or the timekeeper, and the devil's advocate. So let's briefly run through how we identify these roles. Okay, so the leader or the facilitator clarifies the aim of the group and helps the group to set sub-goals at the beginning of each meeting. Sub-goals should serve as an agenda of issues that need to be addressed during the meeting. And they make sure that all group members understand the concepts and the group's conclusions, right? The leader starts the meetings, introduces each topic, and keeps the group on task and oriented towards its goals. And last but not least, the leader ensures that the group completes each task before the deadlines. All right. And you may identify a leader in a group with certain phrases, and a typical phrase that we may normally hear a leader might say would be something like, "Thank you for your contribution." Or they may ask a member of the group, "What do you think?" Or we may even hear a phrase like, "From what I'm hearing, it appears that the key issues are A, B, and C. Why don't we start by discussing A? And if that is agreeable with everyone." Things like that, we would hear phrases like that. Secondly, the role of the arbitrator, the monitor. This individual observes the functioning of the group very carefully and initiates regular discussion on group climate and process, especially if he or she senses tension or conflict brewing. All right. So during disagreements or conflict, the arbitrator clarifies the arguments and proposes suggestions for resolving dispute. Okay, so the arbitrator also ensures that all group members have a chance to participate and learn, and may prompt comments from members if they are not participating. Okay, so this individual acts as a cheerleader as well for the group whenever possible, praising members for a work well done, right? And a typical phrase we may hear an arbitrator saying would be like, "We haven't heard much during our meeting from you, John or Peter. Do you have any thoughts?" Or, "I'm sensing a bit of tension among us over in this decision. I think we should get our disagreements out in the open." Or even something like, "I think we can feel really good about what we've accomplished at this point." All right. We'll now look at the note taker or the timekeeper. As the name suggests, This person takes notes during the meetings. They keep a record of what has been decided, the tasks that have been assigned, when meetings are scheduled, etc. The note taker summarizes discussions and decisions for the rest of the group, and they distribute a summary of each meeting to all group members. They present group material to the rest of the team members as well, and they keep track of time during meetings to avoid spending excessive time on one topic. And this is best handled by deciding how much time will be allocated to each issue on the agenda beforehand, right? And letting everyone know when this time is up so that issues can be wrapped up appropriately. Okay, and moving along, the devil's advocate. And this individual ensures that all arguments or concerns have been heard and looks for holes in the group's decision-making process in cases that there may be something overlooked. All right. So the devil's advocate keeps his or her mind open to problems, possibilities, and opposing ideas. And they serve as a quality control person who double checks every detail to make sure that errors have not been made and searches for aspects of the work that need more attention. And they keep an eye out for mistakes, especially those that may fall between the responsibilities of two group members, right? And a typical phrase we can hear from the devil's advocate in a meeting would be something like, let's give Mike's idea a chance. Or, okay, we have decided to go with plan C, but I noticed that we still haven't dealt with the same problem that plan A didn't address. What can we do to solve this? Right? And phrases like that. I do have a question for you all though. Do you all find yourself playing the same role in a group no matter what group you're in? Or do your roles vary? Anyone? No one? Okay. So at this point, hello?
Yes, I find myself in a group. Whenever I find myself in a group, my roles are varied.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your roles vary.
Yes. I will say more the note taker.
Also, you're always a you always have the role of the note.
No, not always, but
Okay.
more the note taker. I
Okay.
will find myself in that role.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. And what is your experience like in that role?
What's the question? Sorry.
What is your experience being in that role? How do you manage?
Well, the thing is, as a note taker, you can't have everyone speaking at the same time,
Right.
right? So it had to have some kind of order.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the one who would you would be the one saying a phrase like, hold on, please, let me just take a note of this and can we move on? Things like that.
At times, yes. At
Yes,
times,
okay.
yes, I find myself doing that.
Right. Good. So, guys, at this point, I would like to hand over to my colleague Jamie, who would discuss further on the topic. Jamie.
Thank you, Lincia. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Right. So, what would you do if you walked into Massey's or Extra Foods and saw this? Would you continue to shop or would you whip out your phone and record or stop and stare?
Record on the phone.
Yeah, I can see a lot of people in that video doing that, right? But why would you do it?
Um, because it's out of the ordinary and
Correct.
um
Yes, it's not something you see or it's not the norm, although there are no rules against it, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Right. So we're going to look at group norms now. So group norms are the standards of conduct that shape how the group behaves. It's really the personality of the group or the group climate. So some norms are explicit and clearly seen by all participants. What would you say are the group norms in this class? Anybody?
Being quiet.
Yes. Also, what I've noticed as well, if anybody has a question or wants to comment, they would usually what? They'd raise their hands, right? Just so that they'll have some sort of order in the group. Yeah?
Yes,
All
yes.
right. Yes. So in an informal group, members may use humor, are open with each other, supportive, etc. But on the other hand, in a formal group, the climate may be impersonal, guarded, or doubtful. The 5 stages of group development that Lindsay spoke about, this we discussed that can actually help with the desired outcome of the group's personality, and implementing the relational leadership model will also assist its members to feel highly engaged. So once the right techniques are applied to groom the already present team, the new members will also be properly schooled. So this will help to achieve an amazing team that is spectacular in performing their work tasks. So a wonderful definition of group norms given by the Harvard Business Review is group norms are a set of agreements about how team members will work with each other and how the group will work overall. These agreed upon behaviors allow the team to increase its collective team performance through healthy debates and clarity of purpose and rules. So what do you think conflict is? Or what comes to mind when you think of that word conflict? Do you get like a knot in the stomach when you think about it? Do you feel anxious? Nobody has feelings, so what's conflict? Well, I guess it's usually a negative feeling everybody would have, right? So conflict it's really a disagreement between individuals and can result from personality clashes, role conflict, or differences of ideas. So I'm sure you would have all had some sort of conflict with group members as it relates to group assignments as COSTAT, or even at the office with coworkers, right? But the question is, how did you deal with it? Did you ignore it? Did you just focus on the end result? What was the outcome of that? So now you all should really look at yourselves and ask these questions, because now we're going to look at some strategies on how conflict should be handled. So as discussed earlier, conflict is dealt with in the storming stage, and if it's not resolved, it can create a hostile and tense atmosphere. But on the other hand, it can also improve the group's purpose. So when there are personality clashes, this is best handled by listening and understanding others. Role conflict is best handled by clear communication about your own role and your expectation of others. Conflict in ideas or controversies should be handled by communicating differences of opinions and ideas in a civilized manner in order for the group to make the best decisions. So the book refers to conflict as having an elephant in the room. Everyone is aware of it, but some people often ignore or avoid dealing with it. It is important, though, to put that fire out as soon as possible. Implementing negotiation and mediation strategies are more effective than using power strategies when dealing with conflict. And there are 3 different conflict resolution outcomes. They are the win-win, the win-lose, and the lose-lose. So in win-win outcomes, both sides are generally satisfied with the resolution of their differences and the group appears stronger. Additionally, it would result in even better decisions after dialogue, which we'll talk about later on. And in win-lose outcomes, one party uses power strategies to be successful by out-talking and putting down the other party. The other party would now be labeled as a loser. The unsuccessful party would now feel marginalized, angry, and even resentful. The group's harmony is compromised and participants are not empowered or included. And this is not what we want, right? Going back to the key characteristics of the relational leadership model, we want members to feel included and empowered. In lose-lose outcomes, both sides use power strategies and get so entrenched, inflexible, or hurtful that there's absolutely no resolution in the matter in the end. Now, conflict isn't always negative, believe it or not. There are advantages associated with conflict just as there are disadvantages. So some of these advantages is that it can increase motivation and energy. When conflict is handled well, it will free up people to focus on their objectives rather than tension, and there will be an investment of time and energy. Conflict can also clarify issues and positions. So most people do not get what they want because they do not say what they want. There is a balance we must forge when we can take a stand on issues without being too aggressive and also without being a complete pushover. Conflict, confrontation, and speaking up makes us more resilient and less fearful when asking for what is needed. Thirdly, it can build internal cohesiveness and esprit de corps or mutual loyalty within the group. The relationships with each other can be strengthened once the members engage in healthy discussions. Conflict can lead to innovation and creativity. When structures no longer work, something new has to come into play. Change is hard. Ideas must be consistently analyzed, discussed, negotiated, and fine tuned. Conflict is the backdoor to reinvention and innovation. Another advantage is it can increase self-awareness. So if we are in conflict, we are not only going to have others adjusting to us and our perspectives, but we will also be adjusting to others and their perspectives as well. Humility and openness are two admirable qualities to come from conflict. We have to discipline ourselves to not always have to be right. It may also be a means of dealing with internal conflicts. Finally, conflict can lead to a new synthesis of ideas or methods. It is incredibly useful as a creative fine-tuning instrument to our own ideas. Hearing another person's perception helps to mold and clarify our own, either making us more clear and committed to our opinion, or the conflict will open our eyes to new perspectives on our ideas. And some of the disadvantages are that it can be debilitating, it can distract from goal achievement, it can cause defensiveness and rigidity, it can cause distortions of reality where the perceptions of team members aren't true, often becomes a negatively reinforcing cycle. It tends to escalate and to proliferate, and its efforts to resolve are often not reciprocated. The relational leadership model promotes inclusion and empowerment when handling conflict. If you recall, Tanisha also spoke about these key points in chapter 5. Each member's contribution matters, and the ground rules or the group norms that are set to deal with differences of ideas and different approaches will lead to a homogeneous group. The group rules should include that everyone will have a chance to be heard and members will seek points of both agreements and disagreements. Now, handling disagreements with civility is essential. Members should be open and honest about issues and should be respectful in order to create a safe environment. They should also have the mindset to achieve the final objective instead of making enemies within the group. So I'll now pass you over to Lincia, who will continue with group decision making.
Thank you once again, Jamie. And we will now look at group decision making. And there are some leaders who may make decisions on their own. But guys, engaging the opinions and perspectives of others in your group usually enhance the decision that is made, not so? Don't we all think so? Right? So there are some there is. Some advantages of group decision making would be that it enhances a culture of collaboration, right, within members of the group. It allows input from various perspectives. So you have different ideas coming along in the group. It increases interest and participation of group members, right? It allows risk to be diffused across the group instead of resting on one person. And it can increase the strength of an organization and improve its culture. Okay, and although there are advantages, there are also disadvantages of group decision making. For example, using a group to reach a decision takes longer than one person trying to make a decision. Not so, because you have different ideas coming in to put together here, and it will take longer. You have different views on a topic, right? Some people will not contribute to the decision. So you have some people making the decision, and others are not saying anything at all. So it's, you would have what you call a bias. The decision becomes bias. So we have the input will be bias. And some members of the group may be more dominant than others and influence the decision made. And some members may not be interested in the outcome at all, and therefore would not have a meaningful contribution. All right. And there are different methods of making decisions in a group. And next slide. And three of the more common group decision making methods are the brainstorming method, the nominal group technique, and the Delphi technique. And let's look at these methods in a bit more detail. Okay, so the brainstorming involves group members verbally suggesting ideas or an alternative course of action. All right, the brainstorming session is usually relatively unstructured, right? The situation at hand is described in as much detail as necessary, so the group members have a complete understanding of the issue or the problem. And the group leader or the facilitator then solicits ideas from all members of the group. Usually, the group leader will record the ideas presented on a flip chart or a marker board before making a final decision. All right. So the next technique is the nominal group technique, and this technique is a structured decision-making process, right, in which group members are required to compose a comprehensive list of ideas or propose alternatives in writing. Okay, and the group members usually record their ideas privately. Once they are finished, each member is asked in turn to provide one item from their list until all the ideas have been publicly recorded on a flip chart or a marker board. All right, and once all proposals are listed publicly, the group engages in a discussion of the listed alternatives, and which it ends in some form of ranking or rating to, to come to a decision. And the third technique we will be looking at is the Delphi technique. And the Delphi technique is a group decision-making process that can be used by groups when individual members are in different physical locations. All right. In the Delphi technique, each group member is asked to independently provide ideas, and these inputs can be provided in a variety of ways, such as an email or fax or online in a like a discussion room or an electronic bulletin board. And after everyone gives their ideas or their choices, the group eventually arrives at a consensus decision on the best course of action for the group. All right, and we can see that we are all moving into this direction of everything happening virtually since the pandemic, right? So we would be seeing this technique a bit more frequently, right? I don't know if everyone has ever participated in a Delphi technique before. Anyone? No? So moving along the chapter, we will now look at teamwork. So what is teamwork? Would anyone like to tell us what you think teamwork is? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, so in simple words, teamwork happens when people work together towards a common goal. All right, the goal could be professional or personal. You can work as a team to have a community function, launch a work project, or play a game such as cricket or football, right? And one key to a successful team would be when individuals realize that working together on a project is more effective than working alone. All right. Great teamwork is about working together and collaborating to come up with better approaches. And according to Stephen P. Robbins, a team is a group of people whose individual efforts results in a performance that is greater than the sum of those individual inputs. All right. And there are some benefits of teamwork. We will look at 4 of them. And one, it can be a source of motivation and inspiration, right? As team members start to work together, they will see how it boosts productivity. Teams may meet milestones with greater ease than individuals alone. Okay, seeing success can motivate others to stick with their goals even if they encounter challenges. Okay, 2, teamwork can help to manage conflict. Okay, with effective teamwork comes more open communication. It's not about smooth conflict resolution so much, okay, guys, but being able to work with challenges and respect. But it's about, yeah, it's about being able to work with challenges in a more respectful and productive way. To complete shared goals, team members have to bring together diverse viewpoints and build on them. And they have to challenge each other's assumptions. Sometimes they have to compromise, right? Problem solving is an ongoing thing. And teams develop strong conflict management skills to avoid lingering issues and tension. Okay, so and third, we have it enhances team development. Working as a team allows people to get to know each other's skills, personalities, and areas of expertise. And developing these connections leads to a stronger, more developed team. Professional relationships may flourish, and people may even discover opportunities for mentoring. All right, and the 4th point we have leads to achieving bigger goals. Effective teamwork proves that a team can do great things, and with that comes an expansion of their goals. A successful team, they won't stay stagnant for long, right? Managers will be motivated to set new team goals. Also, employees of all levels will want to challenge themselves and expand their own skill sets. Okay, and some characteristics of successful teamwork would be like the leadership style in your work environment is full of fair decision making and effective communication. Members of a team feel confident contributing their ideas and skills. Feedback is welcome and it's not discouraged. And it's not a complete disaster if someone makes a mistake because there are others there to support them and help the entire team learn. And people are patient, especially with team members who are now learning new or early teamwork skills. Okay, and we have a nice quote here from American entrepreneur Steve Jobs, which says, great things in business are never done by one person, they are done by a team of people. And on that note, I will hand over to Jamie once again to continue with the presentation.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Welcome.
So we're going to talk about teams and groups now. And it is important to note that all groups are not teams. Teams are more than just a group of people working together toward a common goal. Quinn, 1996, defines a team as an enthusiastic set of competent people who have clearly defined roles, associated in a common activity, working cohesively in trusting relationships, and exercising personal discipline and making individual sacrifices for the good of the team. Hughes, Jennett, and Kirby, 1993, distinguished between groups and teams, noting that although both have the characteristics of mutual interaction and reciprocal influence, teams have a stronger sense of identity and common goals or tasks. In addition, task interdependence is higher within a team than in a group, and team members usually have more distinctive roles than group members. So each team is the sum of its parts, which means members of the team rely on one another to accomplish the outcome. Whereas a group is a number of people who work together, they have individual goals that they work toward collectively. While groups work towards separate goals, they have a related interest or identity that brings them together. Teams can range from those that function like working groups, where individual accountability is high, to true teams where members depend on each other. This table shows the differentiation between working groups and teams. In working groups, a strong leader is appointed, whereas in a team, leadership responsibilities are shared. The main focus in working groups is on the organizational mission, and teams actually focus on the well-defined purpose rather than the mission. Individual work provide the only product, whereas in a team, products are developed. Effectiveness is measured by management objectives in groups, and in teams, effectiveness is actually measured by assessing the products of teamwork. In working groups, the appointed leader is accountable only, and in teams, accountability is on both team and leader. In working groups, only the appointed leaders recognize for accomplishments, while in teams, both team and individual efforts towards the team's success are recognized and celebrated. When it comes to meetings in working groups, they are usually efficiently run and last for a short time, and members discuss, decide, and delegate. In teams, however, meetings involve open-ended discussions and include active problem solving, and members discuss and decide, yes, but they also do real work together. And there are three common types of teams. So there's the functional team, which resembles a vertical hierarchical organization that performs specific organizational functions. So these are like the manager at the top or the subordinates at the bottom. And then there's a self-directed team where various talents and abilities of team members are incorporated to achieve a common goal. There is no manager, and decisions for the project are made by team members together. There are advantages and disadvantages, of course, associated with this type of team structure. And then finally, there's the cross-functional team, which involves each member of the team having a functional expertise that is combined to perform a specific task. So let's take, for example, an investigative team in law enforcement to solve murders. Now, each member will be responsible and will have different skills to contribute to the solving of the crime. So these will be like the crime scene investigators, forensics, and detectives, etc. And this is just a visual image of the three types of teams. And teams must have clear goals to achieve success. Goals have to be SMART. And I'm sure you all have heard of the acronym SMART. Does anybody remember what it means? No? Okay, so I'll go through them quickly. So the S stands for specific, which are the actions that you have to take and what is supposed to be the result from those actions. And then there's the M for measurable. You should have specified criteria to observe improvement or progress toward the accomplishment of the goal. Then there's A for attainable. The team must believe that it is capable of achieving the goal, otherwise members will become frustrated and angry at what seems to be unreasonable expectations. Now, most of us have had the experience of tackling a challenging task and enjoying the sense of pride and accomplishment that comes when completing it. These goals should be possible to achieve. The R, which stands for relevant, the goal must contribute to the main objective of the team. And T for time bound, we must put our goals into a time frame. So we have to set a time as to when we hope to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And teams should comprise of a diverse set of individuals with different backgrounds, styles, talents, and personalities. So some factors that are critical for team success are to disregard organizational boundaries in an effort to arrive at the best solution. So it's basically doing what is right. I need to be sensitive and responsive to the concerns and considerations of other team members in the design of projects. We all need to respect everybody's input. You need to understand that common goals and targets are mandatory of all team members. So the vision and mission of the team must be accepted by all the team members and critical goals viewed as the collective responsibility of the team. We need to provide open and frequent communications. All team members pull their own weight and share common objectives. So all team members must be consistent with their commitments in order for the team to succeed. We need to capitalize on team members' strengths. So we need to assign projects based on the members' abilities. We need to develop a sense of trust among all team members. So building trust takes time, but once trust is established amongst members, then progress will be successful. We need to be willing to accept and try ideas that are different from the norm, even if it means modifying the established process. Ideas among members must be presented and debated to find the best solutions to problems. We could use a little bit of humor when discussions get tense and the pressure to complete a task is high. So a well-timed joke can help elevate the mood of members and overcome awkwardness. Now, team learning is learning through a group project or study group as opposed to learning independently. So it's kind of what we're doing in this assignment. When there's shared responsibility, members must find a way to learn together and not separately. But how do teams align themselves toward the mutual goal of learning to learn? So the question is discussion or dialogue. So I want you guys to consider and compare the following statements that might be said by your boss or your supervisor, whoever. I want to have a discussion with you. Please see me in my office. I want to have a dialogue with you. Please see me in my office. Before stepping into that office, which statement will cause you more anxiety or which seems more inviting? Anybody? Everybody sleeping? Okay, so there is a marked difference in tone and meaning behind both these words. So managing the differences between these two words can unlock the potential learning power of teams. So in a discussion, people want their own views to be accepted by the group. The emphasis is on winning rather than on learning. Subsequently, these teams waste time and energy. And in dialogue, people freely and creatively explore issues, listen deeply to each other, and suspend their own views to achieve the common goal. So the primary purpose is to broaden ideas, not to diminish them. It's not about a winning acceptance of a viewpoint, but exploring every option and agreeing to do what is right. And now we will take a look at the implications of leadership. So according to Cousins and Posner, in a productive work community, leaders are not commanders and controllers, bosses and big shots. They are servers and supporters, partners and providers. A leader's transition from boss to facilitator is a function of the leader's ability to create an open and transparent environment that encourages team members to assess and articulate their own level of performance without fear or shame of any kind. Be open to hearing others' points of view and to find a common ground. Leaders and team members should share the responsibility of discussing shared group experiences and make it a process of the team. Teams should reflect on successes rather than focusing on errors and failures. Um, the relational leadership model underscores the importance of process-oriented as it relates to team development, which means repeating and following the same approach to develop collaboration within the team to achieve the goal. Also, the importance of the other key primary component of the model, which is purpose, as it relates to team performance. Once the team defines its purpose, it will help keep members aligned and fulfilled to achieve the goal. So team performance and team development are two critical functions of team leadership, and they actually go hand in hand. So team performance is the extent to which a team is able to meet its goals, making decisions and plans, achieving results, and solving problems. Team development, on the other hand, involves creating effective relationships, establishing an environment in which individuals feel appreciated, and encouraging cohesion within the team. Team leaders often face internal and external issues, and leaders can shift their role between monitoring, taking action, and paying attention to group issues. Based on the maturity of the group and the extent of experience, other team members can also take on these functions. In this case, leaders could step aside and have other members take on the responsibilities and tasks. Leaders, however, must use discretion when determining if to intervene and when to allow members to resolve issues as a whole. Now, the following are characteristics of team leadership. Members should be focused on appropriate goals. They believe the goal is worthwhile and it is clear enough to tell when the objectives have been met. There must be the right structure to achieve the team's goals. The group's purpose needs to drive the involvement of each team member. There should be trained and competent team members. The group members must possess appropriate technical knowledge and interpersonal skills to work collaboratively as a team. There must be unified commitment. The group has a sense of identity and level of team spirit that has been intentionally facilitated and developed. Collaboration among team members is important. All individuals should contribute collectively to the success of the project, and individual accomplishments are integrated into the whole team's efforts. The standards of excellence should be established and clearly understood by the team with the emphasis on everyone performing at the highest levels. There should be principled leadership where the leader establishes priorities and helps team members stay focused on the goals, sustain collaborative environments for the team, and manages performance. There should be external support where the team is provided recognition, support, and resources. So this is like money, equipment, supplies, etc., in order to accomplish the goals. Now, the role of team leaders is very complex, which includes monitoring the team's progress, maintaining relationships within the group, and taking appropriate actions when necessary. Leaders are also required to make decisions when the team is stuck and cannot move forward, also to mediate conflicts within the team, coach on interpersonal skills, and to assist the group in focusing on its objectives. Building a strong team before initiating the work to be established is of an importance in good leadership. And there are 4 design components necessary to establish teams effectively and efficiently. So there's a task structure where tasks are clearly defined and described. It keeps members motivated and efficient. And there are the group boundaries where the size of the team must not be too big or not too small. There should be diversity within the team, and the team has sufficient knowledge, information, and interpersonal skills to achieve the goals harmoniously without much conflict. There are the norms within the team, which we've discussed previously, where the team has a set of norms to guide the behaviors of its team members. And then finally, there's a flexible authority among the group, not just by the leader. Team members are also allowed for open discussion and debate and instills a sense of empowerment and trust amongst the group members. I will now pass you back to Lindsay, who will conclude the presentation.
Thank you once again, Jamie. So guys, we are nearing the end of our presentation tonight, and I would just like to run through very briefly on what we spoke about. So we have identified that we function in many different kinds of groups and that there are different stages of development. We've discussed group development models and principles of group dynamics, including aspects of decision making, conflict resolution, and team learning. We now know the difference between groups and teams and how to develop working groups into effective teams, and most importantly, how the relational leadership model can assist in developing favorable teams. So we have come to the end of this presentation, and at this point, are there any questions or comments from anyone? Anyone? No comments? Okay, so on that note, my friends, on behalf of my teammate Jamie and myself, I would like to express our gratitude for allowing us the opportunity of presenting tonight, and to also thank you all for being such an attentive and interactive audience. Have a great evening, everyone, and I will now hand over to Seth.